All right, and we
Yo!
here for another brand new episode of the
Oh, yeah.
Opinion City Podcast, episode 105. Check out the Patreon link in the description below. We've got some cool stuff going on over there,
Check
but
it
we've got
out.
even cooler stuff going on right here. 'cause
Right
we are
here.
talking to
Right.
the man behind the Diaz brand. It's Jared Diaz.
Hell
himself,
yeah.
coming on episode 105. You may remember him. We got to speak to him at CZW.
Yes.
And so you may remember him from that, but now we're getting him for the full treatment
full
here.
thing. Yeah.
And Sean, we've got a really good and really debatable top five list today, which he has specifically asked for. Debate on this, which I'm ready.
I'm excited. I'm pumped.
So what are we talking about in the top five?
Top five actors.
Top five actors.
Ooh.
Man, this one could get rough. All right. Well,
we'll see.
we are excited for Jarrett being here. We're excited for his top five.
Yeah.
And with that, Sean, I think it's time to get this party started.
Let's get
Episode
this party
105 starts right
now.
All right, we are back, and check it out. We brought backup. We did not come alone.
Nope.
It is the man himself, the man behind the Diaz brand, the quarterback of the team, the CEO of the brand. It is Jarrett Diaz. What is going on? Welcome to Opinion City.
The face of the franchise is in your city, Opinion City specifically.
Yes.
Guys, how are we feeling?
Oh
Feeling
man,
good.
we are
Feeling
chilling. We're doing good, having a good time, ready to chat it up about all things Diaz brand.
Happy to talk. Let's do it. Before we get started, I know we're doing top five actors. We set that up, but that music that starts this up, is that from Kill Bill?
It is.
It is.
Right. Because you don't want to get me started on a top five director, because I am
listen,
I'm a fanatic for this.
So speaking about the Open specifically, we had Drew Gulak on, and for anybody who's never dealt with StreamYard before, down in the bottom, we can actually, like, when there's stuff on the screen, we can see everybody down there.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I'm watching Drew, and he is just like that beginning with the two.
Right.
He is just laughing his ass off. And I started to think about that today, and I said to my wife, I'm like, going back and looking at like some of our older stuff, and I'm like, I realized that I don't make things to look cool. I don't make things to be professional. I just make things to make us laugh. Like,
right.
I just want to laugh at stuff. So
sure.
Yeah. So yeah, but you don't want the smoke. You saw it, man. You don't want
right.
That's right.
I also want to say congrats on 2 years, guys.
Oh,
thank you.
5 episodes.
Thank you so much.
Tons of work put in. I'm very happy to be part of this today.
Awesome.
Hell
well,
yeah.
We are happy to have you here, and thank you for that. It's been an interesting 2 years. Doing a podcast is an interesting thing, especially when you're putting a lot of time into it, and you're trying to make sure that everything looks as good as it can. I think at one point we joked about Sean could put on Facebook that he was in a relationship with Canva.
Right.
He spent so much time on there. But
it's a lot of time.
I mean, there was a good chunk of time where I was like, Ralph had initially showed me Canva. Hey, you can help me make logos and graphics, and I went like
it's the reason why we have 267 designs on our Teespring shop.
Oh my god,
that's ridiculous.
That's great, because the logo assets, you'd be surprised how many podcasts and just general media, especially in wrestling, that's DIY, that don't put in the time and put in the commitment. So I mean, as a wrestler, I obviously understand it. So I definitely appreciate the level of work that gets put in.
Well, in the whole 2 years that we've done this, and we've told this to multiple people now, we had to learn everything ourselves.
Yeah. Like
everything that we did, we learned, we trained. Like not.
I don't know how to podcast. I didn't know how to do any of this stuff, and it's like, well, if you're gonna do it, you better learn.
You gotta start somewhere.
I'm not gonna look like crap.
Let's start somewhere.
Yeah.
Speaking of starting somewhere,
105 later, here we are.
Here we are.
Speaking of starting somewhere, tell us what exactly is the Jarrett Diaz brand?
Ooh. The Jarrett Diaz brand is the current iteration of my presentation of my character. So starting in 2018, when I really gave wrestling a shot, I did start in 2014. When I graduated high school, I started training at Create a Pro down on Long Island, Kurt Hawkins, Pat Buck's school. Fantastic. And I was there for a few months before I went out to play college football out in Indiana. So I got my basic training, my bumps, my rolls, a few moves, the fundamentals of what we do at Create a Pro. But in 2018, when I finished, when I went to Full Sail down to Orlando to finish my degree in broadcasting and pursue that heavily, I also started my proper wrestling journey. I started at wrestling schools all around the state. Training at Pro Wrestling 2.0, at Dudley's, at Seidel's, at Jay Lethal's, and I didn't have a presentation. I didn't have a character, as most brand new wrestlers don't really. You have ideas of, what your music might want to be and what your gear might look like, but actually stepping into a persona, it takes some time to develop, typically, not for everybody, but in most cases.
Sure.
And I started initially wearing this hand-me-down pair of bright, sparkly green bikers that I just happened to have this Jets hat that matched. And being a New York fan, it's like, all right, like I'll put them together, and people just started chanting about New York at me, like reacting, oh, like F New York, or like, yeah, let's go New York.
Yeah.
Like, all right, like I'm in Florida, so I'm either going to get one of the two. There's going to be an opinion about where I live at. So I just started leaning into that and pulling from my Bronx background and started going by the Bodega Boys. So like,
oh, nice. Okay.
First custom set of gear, Yankee pinstripes. And you're going to get a reaction when you have Yankee pinstripes.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Usually to the negative because people don't like, where I'm from.
Sure.
So I started just leaning into that further. Now it's a Yankee fitted. Now it's what I might find in a bodega, a honey bun, a single loose cigarette, a brown bag in Arizona. And I started leaning further and further into what became the Bodega Boy.
Wow.
But as I get older and as my years in wrestling continue and I advance not only as a wrestler, but as a person, that presentation didn't feel like it really fit me anymore. It was still a part of me, but it wasn't the part of me that I was leading with every day anymore as a mid to now late 20s grown man. So I dipped back a little bit and I said, okay, what else is there about me? Okay, well, I have a football background. I have this, these years of traveling around the world for that. I have these years of leadership. I'll lean into my physical appearance, right? The looks of what people have said is a strength of mine. So the face of the franchise, and I'll lead with this almost superstar professional athlete ball player sort of gimmick, not to where I'm what's Jermaine Marbury, right? Walking into the ring with like an actual basketball uniform and like have a mascot basketball. And he's a homie, but that's his thing, right? He's a friend of mine. But mine is, it's very much like the guy you're talking to at the press conference after the game. It is the front-facing person of an organization, of a team. And so that leads into, sending me out for media, having a custom tracksuit and personalized athlete logo, like a Steph Curry, like a Kobe Bryant, like a Tom Brady, and really leaning into the, front cover athlete more than the straight up ball player version of that, which is not something that I've really seen in pro wrestling. It's definitely akin to like, how Cody carries himself in a very front-facing scenario for like WWE. Mustafa Ali has leaned a lot in that way since and this is my version of that.
Very cool. It's interesting you talked about Create a Pro and Pat Buck. I used to go see Pro Wrestling Syndicate shows in Jersey all the time.
Oh yeah, and that was what he ran even before Create a Pro opened up.
Oh yeah, that's always the most professional shows. Always great stuff they put on. So Create a Pro, was that always like the plan for you? Did you think about maybe other schools, or was that like
well, it was actually just coincidental timing. It opened up in the spring of 2014, which was just after their WWE's most recent cuts. So Kurt Hawkins had just hit the indies, and he opened up a wrestling school near where he lived at, because he's from Queens. Him and Cardona, Zack Ryder from Queens / Long Island, and Buck already had the school in Jersey, so they co-founded and opened up this school. I was set to graduate high school like 2 months later. So from when they opened to their open house, my very first day in the wrestling school, and all the way until I left out to Indiana to play ball. So I would say like 4.5 months of just training at Create a Pro, a few times a week, getting those fundamentals down. And I thought about returning there, but ultimately my school journey and my life journey just took me down to Orlando.
Now, you mentioned a whole bunch of other schools. You seem like a very all-arounder. There's not many people that we've had on the show that mentioned more than one school that they've gone to. Was there a specific reason why you wanted to try out all these different schools other than just Create a Pro?
Sure. So I think there's layers to that question, it's a great question. Number one, I was fortunate enough to have somebody that I knew in the industry. When I moved down to Florida, just before I moved down to Florida, I went to an MLW show where I met for the first time a cousin of mine through marriage.
Oh, wow.
Jason Cade, who was with MLW for some years and did a lot of stuff all on the indies, your PWG, Revolver, like really, really a really great indie talent in his time. And so I was able to, be almost under his wing when I first started and brought to these schools where he knew people, and, get into the gym with like Cedric Alexander. And I was able to, not to go too much off track, but I just saw Cedric at Hog in Chicago last week and got to tell him like, hey man, I met you 2 weeks into wrestling school with you and your wife at the gym. And now 7 years later, I'm on a big time show with you. And it just feels really cool. Very cool awesome moment for me, which for him was just another Saturday, but he appreciated the story as well. And he got to, I guess, take the moment to realize like, hey, like I make a difference in this business. And really cool for him. It's really cool for me. So there's the element of that, like just being almost taken to where other wrestlers were that Cade knew. But the other element of that is my football journey coming up in middle school and high school was all about going to play in college. I had no delusions of going to the NFL, but I knew that I was going to be good enough to play in college. So my father and I traveled the country at different showcases and college visits and private coaches and coaching seminars. Like I trained with the Mannings down in Louisiana. I had private sessions with who is now the Northwestern University offensive coordinator, Mike Kafka, who was a quarterback for the Eagles in his own right. And all of these other sessions, whether it be Jersey, Vegas, Oklahoma, Texas, Florida, like traveling and learning from the best that I can get in the room with was a big deal for my football development. So it's no different with my wrestling development.
Sure.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So talk about maybe like your experiences at Create a Pro and maybe like the relationships that you have with the trainers there.
I wish I had a better relationship with the trainers there. I was so young and so, beginner in my journey that I wasn't really able to learn at the pace that I would have liked to while I was there.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was very fundamental learning and very basic learning. But what I learned there at Create a Pro was able to kickstart me when I went back to this in 2018. Like when I walked into wrestling school in 2018 for the first time, I already knew how to bump. I already knew how to roll. I already knew how to do a bunch of moves. And it was more like shining me up and preparing me to have matches as opposed to teaching me from square one. What I will say about the awesome team at Create a Pro is that coming to AEW years later and doing a bunch of work with them, whether it be at Daily's Place or Universal tapings, is encountering Pat Buck and Alex Reynolds, who is helping train people as well. When I'm at AEW, they are more than happy to have seen my development, not because they taught it, but because they remember where I started.
Right.
And it's really cool to, I guess, have even that level of a relationship with any of them, to know that if I reach out, it's going to get answered. If I need a match watched, it's going to get watched. Again, it's not a close personal relationship, but it is an effective, when necessary, mentory relationship.
Absolutely.
I think what's really cool for me as a fan and as a peer is seeing guys that I started with so early at Create a Pro doing so well on their own paths. Seeing, MJF, who I was in like an early promo of his when he was Maxwell Jacob Feinstein. Just as a trainee, as like a 2-weekend student. Seeing Caster on television, seeing Statlander on television, Bear being one of my good buddies, Bear Bronson doing his thing. Like, it's really cool to see the guys that I started with, even though they're ahead of me because they followed the path more directly than I did.
Sure.
Seeing them succeed is fucking amazing. And knowing that I'm now following that path that they've traveled already is it's very encouraging.
Now, you had mentioned that you did some work in AEW. I wanted to bring you back a little bit because I noticed 2023 for you was probably a calendar year. You wrestled a total of 40 matches that year.
And you could put that on Cage Match. I would say it's another 20 to 25 after that.
Yeah,
just from what they record.
Yeah, you had a crazy 2023 year. Like you said, going to AEW, having all these experiences. Why that year was it just luck that you got so busy, or you just took every booking that you possibly could take?
I would say it was partially just good timing. When AEW moved their tapings to Orlando to Universal for their Dark and Dark Elevation, I was in those circles. I was in those Orlando circles because of my time spent down there. So even though I was in New York, they were always, I guess, using that area's talent.
Right.
And since I had trained down there and most of my people were down there, on a friendly basis, on a wrestling associates basis, they just kept bringing me down. And even though I was up here, they were willing to, foot the bill on the flight, which was fantastic.
Nice.
And so I think, honestly, just them not doing those tapings anymore, just because of the way that Collision took off and having Ring of Honor as more ancillary content, that is the only reason I'm not doing it.
Right.
But realistically, going down there, having those TV opportunities, learning from guys that are so talented, getting in the ring with people, and just being backstage with those people. And another part of my career that was really important to my development, I would say I wish that I was the wrestler now that I needed to be then. I think even more opportunities would have taken off from there. But realistically, it's the same grind. It's taking every quality booking that I can and continuing to reach out for more of them. My focus has shifted a little bit in specifically in 2025 on House of Glory. House of Glory is the preeminent show in tri-state area, maybe even all of the Northeast, and one of the best independent companies in the world. And outside of taking a couple of European trips last year, my time at Hog has been incredibly important, possibly the most important time in my career, because of all the talent that I'm rubbing elbows with, the eyes that I'm getting in front of, and the how do I say this? The buzz that show has.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just being a part of that show regularly is a big deal. To know that guys like Amazing Red and Mike Santana trust to have a talent like myself on their show regularly and effectively representing the company is a big deal for me.
There's about 100 things to ask after all of that, but first let's
I did throw a lot.
That's all right. I got them all in here.
Right.
All right. So let's start off with House of Glory, because House of Glory is one of those places, you have a lot of independent companies out there, but you have a certain level of independent company that when you hear that name, A, it is going to be a phenomenal show. B, they're going to have, world-class talent there because there's that success built behind that name. So that's it. House of Glory, that's a great thing for you to really be involved in and kind of be a part of, like, the legacy they're building with that now and in the past.
Absolutely.
100%. And we have the events in New York. We had Chicago last week that I was very fortunate to be part of. I hadn't wrestled in Chicago, so that was pretty cool. I wrestled in Illinois, but not in Chicago proper.
Gotcha.
And Texas is coming up in July. In a couple weeks, we have Puerto Rican Weekend, which of course I'm going to be a part of, and is a huge show, not just for House of Glory and the House of Glory audience, but for the wrestlers, the House of Glory roster that is Boricua like myself, that gets to represent not just for our people, not just for our New Yorkers and our Hog fellowship, but our culture. And I know that if you guys get a chance to check that out on Triller, you will have a blast seeing us have a blast.
Yeah. Absolutely. Now, do you have a favorite match that you've had at Hog so far?
I would still have to say it was that very first one at Puerto Rican Weekend last year. So last summer, it was one of the 6 ways, which I've been a what do you call it? I don't remember the word. I'm consistently in these suicides.
Oh yeah.
And they're a staple. I'm a staple of these 6 ways. The 6 ways are a staple of Hog content. There is always a 6-way on the show, and I'm so happy to be part of them. But the very first one that I was in was on Puerto Rican Weekend with Matt Awesome, Chris Cage, Pedro Dones. Oh man, I'm forgetting a couple of guys right now. I don't feel good. Eden and myself. That makes 6. And yes, and it was so cool, so amazing to see 500, 600, 700 people in the crowd that all looked like me and feel like I was representing them and have that level of passion, not only in the ring for what we're doing, but for what we look like and for who we are. And that was a big moment, and I'm very excited to have another stab at Puerto Rican Weekend this coming up June 8th.
Okay, awesome.
June 7th.
June 7th.
June 7th. So all right.
June 7th. Gotcha.
Very exciting stuff. So you talked about being down in Florida and being at Full Sail. Now, I'm going to ask the obvious question, but I'm going to go with a different question first, though, because I wondered, you look at Full Sail University now. Is that very much like other universities? Is it more built? Because you see a lot of like the digital media and the production and all of those sides of it. Is it more into that, or is it like an actual, like a regular university where
it's an accredited university? Like, it's not like it's not something that you're going to question its legitimacy when you get the degree. It's not Trump.
But like if somebody goes down there and says, I want to be an English teacher, so I need a degree in English.
Okay, so yeah, it's a physical place, right? It's not like an online university, but it is very specific. It's very specified in what they offer as degree programs. I personally went for sports broadcasting, but there are a myriad of degrees across media and entertainment and technologies. I don't know if you could just go get a regular English degree. I do know that you can get teaching degrees in very specific fields.
But looking at Full Sail, you see that they are specifically tailored towards that
state of the art. I'm talking like every major movie, every blockbuster superhero movie, or sci-fi movie, your Star Wars, your Marvels. That's all big blockbuster stuff. There's Full Sail people in the weeds. There are Full Sail people in the lifeblood of those films. I think my graduation year, there were like 17 films nominated in some capacity at the Oscars that had Full Sail students involved, which is a huge endorsement for the school. I think it's my opinion is like, if you don't know what you want to do when going to college, don't go.
Right.
That's my opinion, because it is a huge cost. It is a huge expense. It's a huge commitment that if you don't know exactly how you want or what you want to get out of it, what you have out of it is $100,000 in debt.
Right.
However, in my experience with Full Sail University, going to Full Sail and knowing exactly what you want, that's the best plan that you could have, because I got out of Full Sail, my degree, and years of experience in a matter of 2. My internship at the WWE, which is the entire reason I went to Full Sail, is made it all worth it and then some. When I found out that, when I realized that I wanted to continue my my education after community college, Full Sail was one of the places that I wanted to go to because I wanted to continue in broadcasting, which I had started at community college. And I knew that Full Sail has this relationship with WWE, with NXT. Of course, for years, NXT television was hosted there at Full Sail before they started doing everything at the PC. So I go to Full Sail, and one of the first conversations I have with my program director is like, hey, I want to work with WWE. I know there's a relationship here. Can you give me some guidance? And they said, all right, wait a couple months. I said, okay, cool. Hey, I'm coming back in a couple months. I'm having this conversation again. Hey, I want to work with WWE. Like, let's get this ball rolling. What can I do? Who can I speak to? Blah, 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 blah. Because they had NXT shows and they would have students ushering attendance. They would have NXT students working the cameras. They would have NXT students working the merch tables and working the door for tickets and all of that stuff. But I wanted to get in the weeds. I wanted to be in the not in the show, in the production, in the company.
Yeah.
Right.
So eventually they turned out this internship program with WWE, with specifically the broadcasting students. I was one of the first interviewed. I think I was the second person interviewed. And by the time I was walking home from school, didn't even get home yet, I was already getting a call with the offer for the internship, because I spoke with Byron Saxton, Tom Phillips, not Tom Hannafin with TNA, and the HR representative from WWE. And I explained to him, I said, hey, listen, I have a passion for this. I have a love for this, but I am not a fan. WWE has to be very specific about who they let into the building, who they peel the curtain back for. Before the Netflix series comes out, they were very specific on who was allowed to know all of their information. So they didn't want to let any fans, regular fans in the building. So I let them know. I said, hey, I'm at this college specifically for this opportunity. You will not regret it. They bring me on. I'm at the Performance Center twice a week doing all of the non-wrestling talent jobs.
Gotcha.
So ring announcing, panel hosting, color commentary, play-by-play, backstage interviewing, and live event hosting. Those
awesome.
were all of the talent roles.
Awesome.
And I'm in there with Byron. I'm in there with Tom. I'm in there with Alicia Taylor, who's now WWE's main ring announcer. I'm in there with Kayla Braxton, who was that at the time, and as well as backstage interviews. And the underrated and underappreciated Johnny LaQuasto, who is now basically all over the indies doing commentary and ring announcing. And he was with WWE at the time, and really my mentor in that situation, as well as Tom Hannafin. You do a couple of weeks basically being introduced into the Performance Center and into what WWE does. I already knew that. So very quickly, I was the only intern allowed backstage at NXT tapings Wednesday nights.
Wow.
Once a month. I'm sitting right next to Tom Phillips as he feeds commentary and information to Mauro, Beth, and Nigel McGuinness. When you talk about a position to be in, right, as a sports broadcaster, as a broadcaster, to be in one of the greatest sports and sports entertainment companies in the world, seeing how the sausage gets made, that's amazing in itself.
Yeah.
Add on the fact that I was an up-and-coming, burgeoning independent wrestler and trying to learn at double speed, because look at all the people that I'm around as broadcasters. But also, guess what? Keith Lee and Dijak are calling their match right behind me. Adam Cole's right there. Ricochet is right there. Gargano and Cassius Ohno are right there. And I'm going to pick all of their brains as best I can. So when I was, despite being very young in the process and learning at wrestling school at a very beginner stage, I was also learning things that I'd be able to apply later from these guys, from all of this world-class talent. Not only at NXT tapings, but also on the Coconut Loops, the Florida house shows that they would do at the high schools and the armories. So I'm getting a lot of time with this talent, both broadcasting and wrestling, and learning every aspect of what wrestling television looks like. And even though I'm not able to apply it in real time, I'm now years in and applying the things that I was learning back then.
Now, of all the things that you just mentioned that you learned, backstage correspondence, interviews, panelists, do you have maybe a favorite thing that's not in the ring that you learned how to do?
Oh yeah, definitely heel color commentary.
There you go.
Yes.
And I wish I could do it more. What I end up doing mostly, especially in my day job, in my shoot job where I make content, I work for these content companies, I do a lot of talent, like on camera stuff. So interviewing is the thing I most apply, whether it be at a Jake Paul boxing event, interviewing him and Logan Paul, or doing man on the street content for sports betting companies. Like, the interviewing stuff is what I really take from WWE as like bread and butter applied to real life. But my favorite stuff was easily heel commentary. The last day on the WWE internship, we, the interns, were the talent on a WWE Performance Center show, so like a mock NXT show.
Okay.
And I was placed into the role of heel commentator for this wrestling show, where I'm calling an Austin Theory match, and I got like Adam Cole on ringside, and I got Cruz del Toro in the ring. Like, I'm calling these matches as a heel commentator. A blast. Super
incredible.
Fun. Wish I could do more of it on the indies, but I'm very often busy in the ring.
Sure. Yeah.
So, knowing all this time that you spent at NXT, have you had the opportunity to watch LFG at all?
I did see the first, I want to say 2 episodes. I was on the road with the Rapture with Rich Adonis, Jay Sky, and we were watching them all together. I admittedly will say that it is not my favorite. It is hard as a former athlete who's really dedicated his life to wrestling. Really dedicated his life to wrestling, to see former professional or former collegiate athletes come into wrestling and think it's easy, or come into wrestling and sort of half-assed with a lack of passion for it. What I'm doing, what I'm pursuing, I've wanted to do since I'm 10 years old.
Yeah.
And I played football for as long as I did. I took it as long as it would take me. But I knew that whenever that was done, I wanted to be a wrestler no matter what.
Right.
I don't personally have an issue with any of these athletes who are transitioning, because I've been in a position where, like, all right, how do I continue my life as an athlete, as a performer, without the sport that I've been doing my whole life? I understand that transition on a personal level, but as a wrestler, it is not my favorite content to watch these guys walk in and not exactly take it as seriously as some of us who really start from the bottom. That's not a dig at them. That's
no, of course not.
Well,
I think LFG for the wrestling fan is amazing. I think it's awesome. To get, especially when you have like legends like Mickie James and Taker and Bubba and Booker, giving the feedback and giving it in real time, so that the audience has a better understanding of what we're doing and why. I think that's really cool. Well, it's just not something that I'm seeking out all the time.
Right. I saw recently they did a interview with Mickie James, who said that it's going to be around for a while. I think they already renewed it for like 3 more seasons, so it's going to be around for at least
it's set for 3 years, and they're going to do 6 seasons.
Yeah, so it shows that the audience does want to know more, and it wants to see the journeys of the people that they're eventually going to see on Raw, SmackDown, pay-per-views, PLEs rather. Like, the journey is almost just as important as the destination to our audience.
Of course.
Seeing a WWE audience or casual audience seeking out LFG, that just works in the favor of people like me. There's always somehow hunger for more wrestling content.
Now, they just had their finale, and I find it interesting, the way that you're talking about some of this and talking about how the fans want to see the behind the scenes stuff, and they want that curtain pulled back. No spoilers, not going to mention any names, but they chose their 2 winners. And what I found out that was really interesting of the whole thing was that Shawn Michaels ultimately made the decision, but he took advice from all of the other 4. But in his conversations about both of the sets of finalists, the male and the female, he said something really interesting, and I think his choices were made based on this. But he said that, the way he feels about it, is not as important as doing what's right for the business aspect of it.
Right.
And I told my wife, I said I think they made the wrong choices, but I feel like because he said that word business, I instantly knew the choices they were going to make, because they made choices based on things that are marketable, or things that they can use to their advantage, that are not necessarily maybe the best choice for in-ring performances and work. So you could see that, to me, that was such a telling thing. You could see that, they're trying to put on wrestling shows in a wrestling company, but in the back of their mind, it's always about the business aspect of it. And like they say on TV, what's best for business.
Right. 100%. And I didn't see the show, so I can't speak on the choices made. But if you're referring specifically to, the difference between what makes the best in-ring wrestler versus the best choice for business, then guess what? They're always going to make the choice that's best for business, because you can teach wrestling. You just can't. And some may pick it up better than others, but there's a reason that John Cena was John Cena, and Daniel Bryan was Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, best wrestler ever.
Amazing.
Best wrestler ever. And in his own right, when he got to a certain point in his career, extremely marketable, incredibly marketable. Sure. John Cena was marketable and is still marketable for 20 years plus.
Oh, yeah.
There are still levels to this, and we all know what John Cena is in the ring.
Right.
Sure. And that's fine, because wrestling is more than just what happens between the belt.
Exactly. Sure. See, my only gripe with that show, and this is nothing against the show itself, my only gripe was when they aired it, obviously they pre-taped it, of course, from whatever. One of the guys gets eliminated. I'm not going to say who, because you should watch it. One of the guys gets eliminated, but then they're on NXT midway through the show in a group. I'm like, wait a minute. That's in my head. I'm like, you show him getting eliminated.
Here's the curtain. Here's the reality. Right. Yeah. Everybody on LFG already signed to already developed to some degree.
Right. Sure.
And maybe for the casual fan who just doesn't know that, it's perfect. Right. The person who's watching every piece of content, they'll pick up on that. Yeah. Guess what? It's not going to stop them from watching the show, is it?
No, it's not. No, but speaking of shows, and we sort of alluded to it earlier, you mentioned Unreal, the show that's coming out this summer, where they're really going to peel back the curtain. Do you have any thoughts on them peeling back the curtain full way? Do you think they should sort of keep some of the magic intact, or peel it all the way off?
So I am of the opinion that everybody knows what wrestling is in 2025. Unless you're a very small child and you just haven't been exposed to enough of it or people yet, right? Every person who has is the owner of a Netflix subscription, they understand what they're watching when they're watching wrestling, whether they like it or not. With that being said, when I came out of college, my first job was at WWE in digital. I was working for NXT UK. I was an editor.
Right.
And my mentor in the office, my mentor at work for some years then, is this guy, Jason Tykin, and he is the producer of the A&E Rivals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before and during that is the producer of the WWE Untold series of documentaries.
Right. Okay.
The reason I say that, the reason I bring those pieces up, is because we've been pulling the curtain back for years. We've been telling the story of the stories
for
years now. I don't think that this is groundbreaking in concept. It's the degree of what they're pulling back is never before seen. I think that's incredible. I think it's a slippery slope. But if we're being completely honest, everybody that's online talking about wrestling and actively talking about wrestling, they all think they're the best booker in the world anyway.
Sure, yeah.
Everybody wants to book the territory. Everybody thinks they could write a better show than whether it be Triple H or Tony Khan. The point is, the people that are watching it already, the sickos, as some like to call them, they're bought in already. Show them what's going on. I'm all right with it. I really am. And I think that the people who like it might just make them support even more.
Oh, sure. So before we got off on all these, LFG discussions, you had mentioned that you traveled to Europe. So, are you a fan of the traveling aspect of professional wrestling?
Huge fan. It is tiring at times, for sure, as I'm sure every wrestler will tell you.
Right.
I like to joke almost. I might wrestle for free. It's the travel you have to pay me for.
Right.
Because it can be grueling, whether it be getting in the car for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, whether it's hopping on a plane, navigating the travel itself, organizing and being your own travel agent can be difficult. But I think that in a similar fashion to my football background is like, you have to learn from different places. You have to work in front of different audiences in wrestling. The British audience that I wrestled for is different from the audience in New York, which is different from the audience in Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
They're all different places. They all appreciate more. They all appreciate different styles of wrestling more than others. So in order for you to learn and be well-rounded, you have to travel. You have to get out there. My time in England and Germany over the last couple of years, I learned a ton, but the things I learned there were different from the things I learned in Florida, which are different from the things I'm learning in LA. So I think it's crucially important. I think if you want to be anything in this business, you have to go somewhere other than the 40-mile radius that you already work in.
Mm-hmm. Now, speaking of traveling and going everywhere, in your travels on the road or in flights, do you have any fun road stories that you can share with us?
Here's a small one. I'm coming back from Germany. I'm coming back from WXW. I'm traveling with O'Shea Edwards, Jaden Newman. This is the first time that I'm traveling with these guys, but I traveled a bunch since then with these guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I had one of my championships that I had at the time.
Mm-hmm.
The promoter had contributed to the trip, and in turn, I bring the belt. But on the way back, and it's like 3 a.m, we've wrestled nonstop for like 4 days. And now we go right back to the US. It was already a pain in the ass to find a ride back because Uber does not work the same in Germany as it does in the States.
Oh,
we get to the airport, we're going to be late. I can't find my passport. I eventually find it, and then I get stopped because of the belt. The belt that the security, that the man at German TSA had no reason to stop it. He just wanted to see it.
Oh, there you go.
The reason that I tell that story specifically is because fast forward a year, me and O'Shea are leaving England this past September,
mm-hmm.
and O'Shea has 3 of his championships, and the exact same thing happens. We're in 2 different security lines, so we're going. I get through quickly. My security guard did not care about my belt, but his security guard pulled his titles and wanted to do a photo shoot with it.
Oh no!
Mm-hmm.
Which already is not allowed, but he was doing it anyway.
Oh,
but then I pull out my phone to record what's happening, and one of the other staffers comes and stops me from taking video while they do a photo shoot.
Oh,
that's amazing.
Listen, it doesn't take Steiner math to realize the 3 belts are better than 1.
Right.
That's what it was.
Double standard is what it was.
Right.
That's exactly right.
All I'm going to say is O'Shea had a ball after that.
I'm sure he did.
He was calling his brother. He was calling his dad. He was calling everybody to tell what happened. And I don't blame him. It's a good story.
They flagged you in TSA as a Jets fan. So they were like, nah.
That's what happened.
That's what it
exactly
was.
What happened.
They almost didn't let me come back.
All right. So let's bring it back to your early years as a wrestling fan, knowing about wrestling. What, and Sean likes this question. I hate it because it always makes me look bad every time.
But he makes you ask it.
Well, I kind of ask it so I can get that explanation in, because if it's better coming from me, I guess. But what is your earliest memory of professional wrestling?
Okay, that's tough. That's tough. I would say, so I have 2 brief stories, and one of them just being I was at my grandmother's and I found a Chris Jericho action figure that I guess I had or my brother had left there. My brother's a bit older than me, and it was a Chris Jericho WCW action figure. So
wow!
It was old. And that's it. That's like just the earliest memory of wrestling. But then you fast forward a little bit, and it's really my wrestling origin where I'm in after school program. My parents both worked, and I'm in the 4th or 5th grade. And a classmate of mine had a PSP. He's playing SmackDown, which ahead of its time. Wish we had him today.
Oh, yeah, seriously.
SmackDown versus Raw 2007.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm watching a cutscene, not even actual gameplay, a cutscene over his shoulder of Shawn Michaels tuning up the band, bang with the sweet chin music. And my mind is blown. I'm like, oh my God, what is that? That's the coolest thing I've ever seen. Just
right
on the face in slow motion, sweet. And he goes, oh, it's like WWE Raw. You got to watch it. It's tonight. It was a Monday. Tonight it's on. It's on at 9:00. I don't know what channel, but go to the channel guide. You'll find it.
Right.
I'm aging myself, and you guys know. And who is cable anymore? Anyway,
seriously.
Listen, I have cable.
I have cable too. I have to watch. I have to watch the Knicks somewhere.
Yeah, listen. The only reason I have cable is because my wife works for the cable company. So we get cable for free.
There you go. Fair enough. I wish. Anyway, cable's expensive. I argue with my mom for a little while because I had a 9 p.m. bedtime sharp.
Right.
And Raw started at 9. But you know what? I gotta watch this thing. My friend says I gotta watch this thing. It's a few minutes in, so I turn the TV on, and it's already Jeff Hardy doing a dive onto Umaga.
Nice.
I'm hooked. I'm hooked immediately off rip. And what's cool about that story is that I got to be in the ring before the show with Zilla Fatu for the first time.
Oh, wow.
Last week in Chicago. And I had met him at House of Glory a few shows back, but we didn't really chop it up. We're in the ring, and he's, he liked my boots. And I was like, yeah, I like your gear. Like, let's just talk. And I told him, I was like, hey, man, like my first wrestling memory is turning on the TV and watching your dad. Like watching Umaga do his thing,
right?
Which was amazing, and so he thought that was a really cool moment, and I thought it was cool to share with him. So, definitely a worthy first wrestling experience in my
absolutely.
Very cool.
Wasn't too far off.
No. Listen, okay. The problem is we get all these people on here, and we ask them this question, and they say, "Oh, well, my first memory was, John Cena coming out and challenging Kurt Angle," or and I'm like, yeah, my first memory was like Brutus the Barber Beefcake on WWF Superstar.
Jobbers. I'm only so old. I'm 29.
I get this, but
I turn on the TV for wrestling for the first time. I'm only 10 years old. It's like January of 07. That's the best I can do. I can't go back.
All I'm asking for is that we get one person on going down the hill, not coming up the hill,
right? Going down the hill.
Just one. Like I can't get anybody. Everybody's like, yeah. We had somebody on here that was like, yeah, my first memory was like, last week. I don't know. Ridiculous stuff like that.
My favorite match, Alicia Fox versus Melina.
Oh, don't start that. Listen, you want to talk about top 5 moments in wrestling. That was beautiful.
That's gorgeous.
Oh, good Lord.
I just saw the clip again a few days ago, and it just stuck with me.
Yeah.
But so when you're not in the ring, when you're not training and going to the gym, and when there is some sort of spare time on your hands, what does Jarrett Diaz like to do as a fun hobby or two?
Great question. Other than things that are in the world of wrestling, that being watching wrestling or being in the gym, Jarrett Diaz loves to play Madden. I am a Madden fiend. Whether it be Madden or NCAA, it's been a lot of NCAA this year just because of the return of college football. So a lot of NCAA, a lot of Madden. I like 2K as well. I have a puppy. I got her a few months ago. She's
nice.
She's a mini pincher Shiba Inu mix, and she's super sweet and very rare. Adopted her from Texas, so she's the best. I spent a lot of time with her. I have a lot of cousins. I have a big family. Getting ready for a big barbecue this weekend for Memorial Day.
Awesome.
That'll be nice. And segueing us right into our top 5, I am a movie fanatic. When I was in community college and focused on my degree, I was also taking acting classes at James Franco's studio, and I was taking film classes while at that college. And I am a absolute fiend of cinematic endeavor. So like I'm hooked on Sinners right now. That's my gas.
I have to watch that.
I'm trying to watch it. I'm trying to watch it this week for the third time.
Nice.
Nice. That good, huh?
It's incredible. Yeah. It's really good. And as I mentioned early on, I will talk to you about directors or actors or cinematography. I'll break down a oneer for you. I love this stuff too. And if I weren't in professional wrestling, I would have pursued acting or filmmaking in some capacity.
Oh, okay. All right.
See, I was kind of hoping maybe we would have done like top 5 gaffers or top 5 best boys.
Top 5 best boys.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have to watch Sinners.
I'm trying to keep it simple so that the audience care.
Of course.
Ralph giving me a hard time.
They'll care about, you know, what I tell them to care about, because they care about me. See, that's how it works. And King Ralph did appreciate that Jarrett Diaz talked about himself in the third person. That was
right.
Yeah, I appreciated that. No, I have to watch Sinners by myself because my wife is like, absolutely not. Now,
so the second time I saw it by myself, and I don't condone it. I don't suggest it, but I did see it, you know, in not so appropriate means. So I was able to rewind it and pause it and watch something back. And, you know, really,
of course,
nerd out on that one. On the second watch.
Yeah, because I mean, you look at movies differently than most people would.
Right.
You know, it's like if you're a musician and you're listening to music, you listen differently than just the average person. But
100%.
You know, there's a lot of things I can't watch. I used to watch Unsolved Mysteries. And so if I was watching Unsolved Mysteries at night, she would not come in the room. Like she would have nightmares for days. And I'm like, I'm like, it's Unsolved Mysteries. This woman's meeting her long lost sister she hasn't seen in 175 years, and you know
she's gonna have a nightmare that she has a long lost sibling.
Right.
When I watch those episodes, I always skip over those parts because I'm like, I just want the terrifying stuff. Let's go.
Yeah.
But
the extra
that's a little sicko of you, Ralph.
No, stop it now.
Man, it's all good. To each their own. It's just content. It's just television.
That's terrible. No, but no, Sinners, absolutely not. I showed her the trailer, and that was enough.
Check it out. Like, nope. I recommend both of you check it out.
Oh, I'm excited because
definitely plan to. Definitely, it definitely looks amazing. Yes.
All right, so it looks like it's time for Sean's favorite question. This is something he always looks forward to. So, Sean, it is time for the final question of the interview. Why don't you take it away?
So, for Jarrett Diaz and the Jarrett Diaz brand, what does pro wrestling mean to you, and what is the significance that it has had on your life?
That is a deep question. Pro wrestling to me means an opportunity to express whoever you want to be seen as. Pro wrestling is a very unique experience where you can literally be anything you want to be as long as you're good at it, as long as you make it work. For me, it is, premiere magazine cover, video game cover, open up Sports Center athlete. For others, it's undead vampire woman. For others, it's Russian murderer. It could be anything. Whatever you want to project, as long as you are good at it. And I think that puts us wrestlers in a unique experience where, in a world where it can be tough to be true to yourself and true to who you want to be, and it's tough to find your chosen family or your clique on who you allow to be yourself. Pro wrestling is an opportunity to be whatever you want to be in front of everybody, and they're happy for it.
Right.
Amazing. I love it.
And what it means to me is I don't even know how to sum it up. It's my life. When I was 10, I fell in love so fast that the thing that I was doing actively and continued to do for another 10 years became my secondary thing. And it allows me to now do that primary thing for another 20, 30 years from
Sure.
when I started, because everybody says you're pro. I mean, I don't know about everybody, but some people say your pro wrestling prime is in your like 40th year.
Right.
Wow.
Insane, right? Like I think it was Cody Rhodes that said it's like your pro wrestling prime is like 38 to 44, where
Right.
you're just athletic enough to apply everything you've learned from being an athlete in the ring, where you're just smart enough to apply all the things that you learned across the journey. So to be 29, 7 years in, and know that I could still go another 15, I'm blessed. I'm fortunate.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you look at the roster now, other than like maybe NXT, most of the main roster guys are between like 35 and 45.
Cross, Cena, Orton,
Yeah.
AJ. On the other side, you got Bobby, you got Shelton, Christian.
Think about what
Mox. There are guys that are up there in age that are every single week doing the thing.
Yeah.
And in the headline spots. And my journey's just begun.
Right.
Amazing. All right. Well, that is going to do it for the interview portion of the show, which means it is time for the main event top 5. And wow, did that just put a smile on Jarrett Diaz's face, because he is fired up and ready for this.
Ready to go.
Man, this is going to be exciting, because I don't know. We've talked, some topics similar to this, but I don't know that we've ever had somebody that seems to have the passion about the subject as you do. So I'm excited for this.
Let's do it. Okay, can I just jump in?
Yeah.
Yes. Listen, this is your top 5. Just go for it.
Before we go 5, I got a couple honorable mentions.
Oh, I love it.
Here,
yes.
Okay?
Love it.
Honorable mentions: Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh yeah.
Gary Oldman.
Yeah.
Edward Norton.
Ooh.
Ryan Gosling, and the great Daniel Day-Lewis.
Wow.
All
Okay.
good picks.
Yeah.
These are my honorable mentions. That's my 6 through 10.
Right.
I got you. Okay.
Top 5, starting with 5, Jack Nicholson.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh man.
Jack's got to be there somewhere, no matter what. And for me, it's at 5. If only for Cuckoo's Nest and Chinatown and the early era of his career, but if you drop all the way down to As Good as It Gets and The Departed and those performances in the latter stage of his career, the ability to channel all of the worst things about a person in the role that he played in The Departed, the best. Number 4, Christian Bale. The pure chameleon actor, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
To be able to go as far as the Machinist and weigh like 120 pounds to as big as he was in Vice as Dick Cheney, but also roles like American Hustle and The Fighter. Not to mention he was Blockbuster. He did The Batman. He did The Prestige. Being able to work with all these different types of directors, incredible.
I think that one of his best movies, I love American Psycho. And I love it. For me, that is like
really put him on the map.
Yes, that is like the performance of a lifetime. It is, because you could see how he just channeled a whole different side of himself. It was incredible.
I think if you're thinking about if you're measuring up other performances of sociopathy or psychopathy, that is the premier performance.
And you even said that Christian Bale is so committed to his craft that he will go extreme lengths to either gain or lose whatever he needs to do for that specific role.
He got ripped for American Psycho, huge for Batman, and did the in between.
Yeah, and he was this big. Like the man is willing to put in any and all effort to make whatever movie he's in the most important movie of
one of the best. Time. Number 3, I'm going Bob. It's Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
I think there are some movies later on in his career that maybe didn't help his legacy. I'm talking the one where he was a boxer against Sylvester Stallone in their 80s. I'm talking the one where he travels with Zac Efron and is like a crazy party guy, but he's 80. Like there are some movies late, but you know what? Even later on in this, you still have Killers of the Flower Moon. You still have The Irishman. You still have those mega performances. But then, go back. In my opinion, the two greatest movies ever both star him. You have Raging Bull and you have Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
The absolute pinnacle of Martin Scorsese's career is right there, locked in step with Robert De Niro.
That and his whole story of his
and The Godfather. I don't even talk about The Godfather. I'm not going to. I'm just saying, add that,
But
sure.
He had such a real life journey going through what he did with his personal problems, and to bounce back from all that and to do Iron Man and just start the MCU. And
you're talking about Downey. You're talking about Downey, but I'm talking about De Niro.
Oh,
sorry. Sean.
Different Rob.
Oh boy,
that's okay. I love him too.
Getting our signals crossed.
Well, then if we're talking De Niro, Heat's the first thing I think of course.
Meet the Parents, Meet the Fockers, right? Break into a little comedy.
Fantastic.
Right. Yeah, I mean, to go from one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum and just do it seamlessly, because he's one of those actors that when you think about him and you think about certain movies that he's done, you see a different person every time, yet it's still the same person, and that's an incredible gift to have.
I think that what's interesting about especially the last three names that I just mentioned, is they do such little press. They do so little interview. They do so little media. And it's not because they don't want to promote their work, is because they take their craft so seriously that they don't want to answer questions that aren't about it. You get only the most serious interview when it comes to Jack Nicholson or Christian Bale.
Right.
I'm going to go to number 2, and the 2 and the 1 is really a 1 and a 1A. Because I have a really hard time with this, but I know my top 2, and I won't stray from those 2. I'm going to speak first on Denzel Washington.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Denzel is the kind of actor that if you threw, I mean, it's happening right now because he's on stage in Shakespeare and Othello. Right. But I was about to say, you could throw him into Shakespeare and he's going to do the exact same level of damage that he can do in a Training Day or an Equalizer. And he is such a magnetic performance guy. Man on Fire. Fences is a brutal, powerful performance.
Yeah.
This, sort of dirtbag dad. Really, really strong. Great film, great actor. Denzel is right up there. And my number 1.
Yeah.
Oh boy, here we go.
My number 1 with a bullet.
Oh boy.
In my opinion, the greatest actor of all time, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh yes.
You may not feel great about it, Ralph. I don't like.
I really don't.
And we can go at it about it. But all I'm going to say is this: If you are the heartthrob of Romeo and Juliet, and you are the heartthrob of Titanic, and you go on to make the serious, in my opinion, Oscar snubs of a leading man as The Departed or the Revenant, The Wolf of Wall Street.
Okay, so I'll give you the Wolf
Aviator. Catch Me If You Can. I'm not finished.
I'll give you Gangs of New York.
Killers of the Flower Moon. Gangs of New York. The dude is hit after hit after hit.
Inception.
And not a single miss. The man ain't missed yet. That's my goat. Speak to me.
All right, so I've got a little list here.
I know you like that.
Yeah. So I got a little list here. Some names that I believe were mistakenly omitted from your list. We'll just run them down from the beginning. Sure. Morgan Freeman, because Morgan Freeman basically, plays
awesome,
God in
overrated.
every movie. Yeah. Oh
wow.
I think he's great.
Wow.
At the exact same thing he always does.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if you put Morgan Freeman in your movie, you know what you're getting. But why don't they ask him to do something else? Because what he does is so great.
Maybe so, but if that's your skill set, you got to be penalized for that. Everybody I just said is about the range and is about the hits.
All right. Okay. So I also have a few actors here, and some of these I put on here just because I want to hear what you're going to say about it. Okay. So I put Sylvester Stallone on the list.
Another one. He's He's awesome, but he's only going to be asked to do the same thing.
Listen, if I'm watching a movie and he's going to be in it, I only need him to do the same thing. Like, listen, if he was Rocky Balboa in every single movie that he ever played in, like if he was Rocky Balboa in Guardians of the Galaxy, or
right.
You know,
look, I love the Rocky movies. I really do. Yes. I think especially Sly's best performance is in Creed. It's not even in his own movie, because he's finally over the hump. He ain't what he used to be, and he knows it. And that is challenging him as a character,
right,
and as an actor. And I think that's fantastic. I don't hate on Sly.
No.
What he is.
And the only thing I'll say about that is I think that in Rocky Balboa, I think you see the emotional range from him, and I think that's different. And I think that's something important to bring up about him, because you don't really see that emotional range from him. And
the attempt to reconnect with his son and that storyline,
and just the fact that he could not let his wife go, and the memory of her, and just the fact that he had all of these different images around him, or things around him, to remind him of who he used to be. Now you're talking about him getting over the hump. This is like where he's stuck in that past. He's got Spider Rico washing dishes, he's got pictures of him all over the, it's insane, but the emotional range is there. All right. Sure. Okay. Well, we have to talk about, if we're talking about Sly, we have to talk about Arnold, because
Arnold.
I mean, you want to talk about
awful.
I want nothing to do with Arnold acting.
You're a hater. That's
unless it's Jingle All the Way. That's all.
I love Jingle All the Way is amazing.
It's a bad movie, but it's my bad movie.
So
I love it.
So my wife hates that movie, but I make her watch it because she owns the DVD. Good. She owns the DVD. No. I like Jingle All the Way. I also like Last Action Hero, because he's great in Last Action Hero.
I don't hate Last Action Hero.
I watched Last Action Hero with a group of people, and when the movie was over, there was like silence in the room, and one person stood up and they said, "That is the worst fucking movie I've ever seen in my entire life," and they stormed out. It was amazing.
I like that it knows what it's doing. I like that it's right, but it's not good.
Yeah.
I think there are better movies doing what it's doing. I think like Free Guy is a better version of what that movie was doing.
Right.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Who else did I put on my list here? Samuel L. Jackson. I can't wait to hear that.
Fantastic. I was gonna do an honorable mention for him.
There you go. Yeah. Good.
But he's another guy. Like, he's mostly one note. I like him in the Lethal Weapon movie that he's in. I love him in Django.
Oh yeah. Django's good.
Where he's something a little different. And Pulp Fiction is one of my favorite movies ever.
Pulp Fiction's
but he's Sam Jackson, and you're just taking Sam Jackson, you're plopping him into this movie, and that's fine. I'm not mad about it. I'm not a snob.
If I could get Snakes on a Plane, then Snakes on a Train, then Snakes in Spain, then Snakes Attending Tulane. If I could get all those movies,
Attending Tulane is great.
I was just trying to think of things that rhyme. Okay, I also put Christopher Walken on my list. That's a guy that
I have no opinion about Christopher Walken. I just
love his
voice. No, because I've never seen a lot of his movies. I have a big Walken blind spot. I used to have a big Tom Cruise blind spot, but then last year I spent like 2 months just watching all of his movies.
Yeah.
I guess I gotta get I've seen Deer Hunter, and again I've seen Pulp Fiction, but there's a big Walken.
But he's just in so many things. Like, he turns up all over the place. It is what it is. All right. What else do I have on here? Some of these I threw on here just because I figured, it would have you explode through the roof. But I put Jim Carrey on my list.
I actually almost put him in an honorable mention, but I realized I had 5 already. Can I tell you why?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah,
Carrey on my list as well, because comedy acting is still acting, and Jim Carrey is the best at it. He fully commits. Yeah. Not every movie is good, but the ones of their time, I'm talking like The Mask, I'm talking Ace Ventura.
Sure.
What's the other one? Bruce Almighty.
Yeah.
Dumb and Dumber. He had a run. Dude had a run in like 94, 95. The Cable Guy too.
Yeah. So good. Oh yes.
For what he's doing, probably the best to ever do it.
See, I like when you see people like that, and then you see one particular role where it's just a complete departure and it blows your mind. So for Jim Carrey, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
I was going to say that. I was going to say 3 as well.
I was going to say that one as well. Yeah, that one was
good. Eternal Sunshine is a great movie, one of the most underrated.
It is. And what's disappointing about that idea, well, that's sad. But so then you had, now my wife is a big Adam Sandler fan. Again, Adam Sandler's okay. Sure. We decided we neither one of us had seen Punch Drunk Love. So we bought the DVD. It was at like a discount store. We paid like $5 for it. Something, we figured, well, we'll just watch it. I took it back. It was terrible. It might have been the worst movie I've ever seen.
That's so interesting that you have that opinion, because I wouldn't say it's a widely beloved movie, but it is often an appreciated movie for Sandler's first departure from being Adam Sandler, from being that sort of man-child SNL character. And so seeing him do that almost proved that he was able to carry an Uncut Gems or a Spanglish, which is a little more serious. And then when you put somebody in control like the Safdie brothers to put Uncut Gems together, he was perfect in that.
Well, I'm not saying that he was bad. I think the movie was bad. I'll give him all the credit in the world. Same thing with Robin Williams. When you look at Robin Williams and you look at 1 Hour Photo, come on. Now that is
nice and creepy and serious and weird. And I think departure. I had only known Robin Williams as a kid from like Flubber.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Which isn't good because I just rewatched it recently. But I loved him as a kid and Flubber and like Doubtfire, right? But when I was in college for the first time, I saw Good Will Hunting.
Yes.
And it broke me a little bit because he's so tragic, but he's so present. And I love that performance. And then a couple years later, I saw that he did like 2 episodes of Whose Line Is It Anyway? And it reminded me like, oh, he's one of the GOATs. He's one of the improv comedy GOATs. Oh, but absolutely. A lot of his movies are just a lot of his same sort of frenetic energy. So having a photo or a Good Will Hunting, really cool to see the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. All right. So let's see. This is just.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, Ralph. But Sean brought up Downey Jr. earlier by accident.
Okay,
I want to talk about Robert Downey Jr.
Let's talk about it. Sure.
I'm with you on that, right? Like seeing. Okay, a lot of people don't know. You guys might know, but Robert Downey Jr. not only is an industry kid, but was on SNL.
Right.
And it was such a flop, such a disappointment on Saturday Night Live that in a rare case he was only on for 1 season. It was a little more common back then. I know Ben Stiller was only on for 1 season. A lot of guys were on for 1 season at that time, but now less so. Right. To be on for only 1 season and effectively be looked at as a failed performer, to have the career that he's had in Chaplin early on and freaking Ally McBeal, but also to move on to do like a Kiss Kiss Bang Bang with Shane Black and just kick off the entire MCU, only the largest movie franchise of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And even through that, making small pieces like The Judge that I love with Robert Duvall, or Due Date, which is one of my favorite comedies with Galifianakis. Like, even though, brilliant. Regardless of the movie he's in, he's still sort of Tony Starking all over the place.
Right, of course.
It's his thing, and he's the best at that specific thing. So I am a big fan of Robert Downey Jr. as well. I didn't mean to shut it down earlier.
Sorry. No, that was my mistake. I thought you said Downey. I did not hear De Niro. That's my own fault.
All right, but, so we're getting down to the end of the list here.
I was thinking
Michael J. Fox.
Michael J. Fox or Jamie
Michael J. Fox. Michael J. Fox.
Back to the Future, my favorite 80s series.
Oh, Back to the Future is my favorite movie.
So good.
Franchise of all time.
But I hate Teen Wolf.
Oh, come on.
You're not a Teen Wolf fan?
And it's not my favorite take, but that's an honest take. I love Back to the Future.
That's all right.
Teen Wolf.
And I don't
think he liked it much either. He didn't even do the sequel. They brought Jason Bateman in for that.
He did not. No. So there's he did a string of like the Doc Holliday, like these crazy movies where I don't know. He should have just stuck to.
And of course with Parkinson's really swerving his career, but I just saw him on TV a few days ago at the Knick game, and he was having a blast. So good for him.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I saw him out somewhere because somebody got a picture of him with Jason Bateman. They were sitting together. So the Teen Wolves together. All right. So I'm going to throw this one out there just because I have a specific example as well. But Joe Pesci and I'm just going to throw that out there because not only was My Cousin Vinny an amazing performance from beginning to end, but there is a hidden gem of a movie that you need to see with him if you have not seen it. It is called With Honors. And it's him and it's Brendan Fraser, who everybody's all crazy about because of The Whale and all this stuff.
Phenomenal.
I thought he was terrible for a long time, but this movie is incredible. So Brendan Fraser plays a college student who has his like senior thesis term paper, and he forgets it at the library.
Is that Joe Pesci's like a homeless guy, and he's auditing?
Yes, and Joe Pesci finds it, but Joe Pesci will only give it back to him a page at a time. But for every page he gives him, he wants something from Brendan Fraser, and it changes Brendan Fraser's character in the movie completely. Instead of thinking about himself, he's thinking about others, and it's this sort of life-changing thing for Brendan Fraser. But it all comes from this homeless man that found his term paper and would not give it back, but taught him lessons.
I got to check it out because I'm familiar with it, but I haven't seen it.
It's very good. All right,
but
last one.
My Cousin Vinny, and I try to get everybody that I know to watch that movie because I love it. And we were watching. I was watching Crazy Stupid Love last night.
Yeah.
For the umpteenth time because it's the greatest rom-com ever. Mm-hmm. And Marissa Tomei is in it, and I was like, My Cousin Vinny. I got to try to watch that again.
Yeah.
We did not mention during the Joe Pesci discussion. We did not mention 8 Heads in a Duffel Bag. One of my you need to watch it. 8 Heads in a Duffel Bag. It is one of my favorite movies. 8 Heads in a Duffel Bag. There is a scene where Joe Pesci is like dreaming, and he's dreaming about the 8 heads singing like reggae or something to him. It's amazing.
If you say so.
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
All right.
I will let you know.
Now, while some of this list may not have been serious, this is the last one, and this is really serious, and I'm really shocked that this guy didn't even crack the top 10. Tom Hanks.
You hate him.
I don't.
Okay, I was gonna say.
I did see.
No.
Serious.
I was just being.
Man, we were about to cancel Opinion City forever because
no. I don't. Tom Hanks.
We get canceled talking like that.
I don't hate Tom Hanks, but I do hate Forrest Gump. I think
Forrest
Gump is a horrendous garbage film.
I love that movie.
All right.
I don't like Jenny.
I'm going to say 3 things about Forrest Gump. You sit with him. You go rewatch the movie if you want to.
Sure.
That's up to you. But these are my 3 opinions about Forrest Gump before I go on and talk about Tom Hanks.
Gotcha.
I don't know why Robert Zemeckis insists that every movie he made at that time needed to have a guy saving a woman from getting raped in a car. Hate that. Number 1. Number 2, because Back to the Future 1 and 2.
Sure.
And this one as well. Number 2, I don't like the idea of Tom Hanks coming in as Forrest Gump and basically living a black experience and stealing all these accomplishments away historically. Let's talk about effectively standing in for MLK. Let's talk about being a kick returner at the University of Alabama. Come on.
Yeah.
And let's talk about giving Elvis his dance when it was really black performers that Elvis stole his dance from. Right. Aside from the tar and feathering illustration that they sort of alluded to earlier on in the movie. I don't like that. And lastly, we are not rooting for anyone. Jenny is awful. Lieutenant Dan is awful. The mom's no good. Nobody is cheerable in this movie.
Yes.
Right.
Because Forrest Gump has no objective. He has no goal. He's just a man strolling through life, doing what he's told to do. And I want to root for somebody when I'm watching a movie, and it's not him. Right. So why are we watching? We're just watching some stuff happen. That's not a good movie for me. So for me personally, it's a hot take. I think Forrest Gump, dog shit movie.
If I was picking Tom Hanks movies, I would not put that one in there because
Captain Phillips. Captain Phillips is my favorite Tom Hanks movie.
Okay.
The Green Mile.
Green Mile is good.
The Green Mile is good.
Stories rock.
Big
is cool.
Yes.
And what's the one where it's a Christmas and it's all CGI and Uncanny Valley and gross and I hate it? Which one is that?
Oh, the
Polar Express.
The Polar Express.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, because that became
it's uncomfortable, and Tom Hanks is all the children.
And that becomes the thing that is like the catalyst for parents taking their kids on trains every Christmas.
Yeah, I think that's the catalyst for many of my
Santas and
nightmares. I'm not a fan.
Okay, so if I'm throwing out Tom Hanks movies that I really enjoy, I like The Terminal. I thought The
Terminal.
Was very well done. Yes, that is a good one. This is kind of a sleeper under the radar one for him, but A Road to Perdition. Because it is a father and son story, and it is incredible. But for me, and I'm shocked because my wife and I don't often agree on movies. And especially when we're going out to the movie theaters, she's either seeing one because I really want to see it, or I'm seeing one because she really wants to see it. But we kind of agreed we both wanted to see this one, and I'm glad we did because it instantly became my favorite Tom Hanks movie, A Man Called Otto.
I didn't hear good things, so I skipped it.
Oh no, it is.
Tell me it's worth watching. I will go around back to it.
Yeah, it is just. It is a range. It is a range of emotions for his character, and the story arc and the progression of his character throughout this, the people that he meets, and it's someone who never valued their life, given multiple reasons to value their life, even though it may be too late.
Right.
So there's all these different range of it is, and because a lot of the trailers and the commercials for it played it off as kind of like this comedy because here's this curmudgeon that hates everybody,
like sort of oddball.
Yeah.
Comedy.
Yes, it was like, oh, this guy. Well, because I think it was like a Swedish movie first.
Because how do you market something that has nuance like that?
Yeah, yeah. So they made it into this like comedy thing where it's like, oh, it's funny because he hates everybody, he hates everything, and he says like all these stupid things to people that are funny. But that's just the tip of the iceberg for that movie.
Sure.
So
I would say my favorite Tom Hanks movie, which I mentioned earlier as a DiCaprio movie, and it's a walk-in as well, is Catch Me If You Can.
Catch Me If You Can is amazing.
So I will. Hanratty is
love that film.
Great, and I almost kind of the heart of the film in some way, where it's the chase, right? You're almost not rooting for him because he's the antagonist, but when you finally get to the point where he and DiCaprio share scenes, he's really trying to prop him up and allow him to be himself again. And I think that's really powerful.
You see the real heart of that story is the relationship that those two characters have with each other. And you see, when they interact with each other, it's almost like it's like when you tell the story of Batman and you say, okay, well, there can be no Batman without the Joker, but there also can be no Joker without Batman. It's the one person that
twisted version of it, but you're 100% right. Like
that sentiment that,
especially the idea, like when Tom Hanks finally realizes like this thief, this con man, this multi-personality criminal, he's just a kid. He's just a kid who was given a rough shot as a 16-year-old and wanted to run away, and he needed help and he needed to figure it out. I think there's a lot of power to, and not to spoil it, but it's an old movie, when he offers him a position at the FBI to start helping and give the kid some guidance and give him a boundary in which to create his own life for the first time.
Because I think he always, because of the relationship that they had and just the, I think he always kind of felt almost like he could be the father figure that this kid needed. And I think, offering him that job was him trying to be that fatherly figure. But even when you see them, the two of them talk, and it's like, it's weird because Leonardo DiCaprio almost seems like a caged dog that can't get out. And it's and I think there's a point where he realized, like, Tom Hanks' character realizes that that's what's happening. Like he sees that as well.
I think in the scene in France when he gets caught for the first time, or Carl's like, "Hey, like I'm here to bring you back to the States. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm just you're caught. It's done. Let's get you taken care of now." Yeah, that is a really good movie. And I should have given you credit with the Leonardo DiCaprio thing with that one too, because that was a powerful performance. I think my Leonardo DiCaprio hatred just comes from Titanic purely. And you're biased because that was 28 years ago, dog.
Listen, it doesn't
Get
matter.
on the bandwagon. Wolf of Wall Street is great. Catch up.
I didn't say Wolf of Wall Street wasn't good. I gave you that one, but I don't know. It just not my not my guy.
Okay.
I understand why people like him. I get it. You know,
I think you're being a little harsh, but
well,
that's your opinion.
I'll take that. I will wear that badge proudly. All right. Well, this has
can
been.
I get?
Oh, you got some. What do you got? Some? Oh, send
you
some
haven't
out.
even given me a list. You had like 100 people, and you didn't give me.
Oh, well, listen. I didn't know you watched movies.
I watch a lot of movies. Actually,
well, he doesn't tell me about any of them. So
well, no, because it's not brought up in conversation. But
you could bring it up sometime.
You definitely mentioned. Well, I mentioned it earlier. RDJ, of course. You mentioned my number one. That would have been my number one, which is Jim Carrey. I love that man. The Truman Show was one that you guys mentioned. I love the Truman Show.
Yeah,
Ace Ventura 1 and 2, The Mask. I can go on and on. His work in Sonic, surprisingly, is for me amazing.
I thought he'd phone it in, and he doubled down.
No, he did not phone it in whatsoever, and I was so impressed.
Doubling down on nonsense is always a good thing.
Yeah. Most of my lists are, and this may be sort of weird, but like movies that really like where one actor really got to me. Like for instance, Matthew McConaughey in Interstellar. That movie is forever ingrained in me because of that movie.
He had this movie. He had this almost a couple year run where it was like Interstellar, Dallas Buyers Club, and then the cameo in Wolf of Wall Street, and it's like, oh, this is a powerhouse actor in his own right. Oh, yeah. He stole a scene. He stole a scene in Wolf of Wall Street that made basically the first third of the movie. Just
it was that
Dallas Buyers
scene
Club.
is perfect.
Dallas Buyers Club is incredible. And Interstellar is one of his best performances ever. I love McConaughey.
It's one of my favorite movies for that one. One that, even though it's sort of for two movies, but it was towards the tail end of his career. I watch other ones, but Heath Ledger as the Joker in Dark Knight is amazing. But after that movie, he did start to film a movie before he passed, which was called The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
Sure.
Yeah.
But that movie I love because of the way they hired a bunch of other actors to seamlessly keep Heath in the movie, but be able to continue that story with other actors taking his place as he moves through this like universe around him.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a genius move that they were able to
for sure
honor him in that way, but also keep it going.
I think almost lost to time as well is Brokeback Mountain. I think not just his performance, but his willingness to take on that role with Jake Gyllenhaal and fully commit to it in the way that really only Heath Ledger clearly was capable of doing at that time. I think Heath Ledger is one of the greats of his time. I think the other, I mentioned Crazy Stupid Love, but the other really great rom-com that I love, 10 Things I Hate About You, is really a vehicle for him as well.
It's so good, that one. But Matthew McConaughey, him. I just had another one in my mind. I don't know why it left me. He's had a ton of great movies, but for me specifically, Brad Pitt in Inglourious Bastards.
I have been talking about Inglourious Bastards
it's so good.
For the last 2 weeks with anyone who will listen. I saw the clip of Buongiorno. He speaks the best Italian, but with no accent. He speaks almost fluent Italian, but with no accent. It's perfect. It's perfect. I love the movie. I love Tarantino's stuff. I think Christoph Waltz is our great underrated actor.
He's so good too. Yes.
In film, but Brad Pitt continues to steal movies. I was just watching that Friends episode that he's in the other day.
Oh yeah.
There. Super fun. The I Hate Rachel Club. That was great. Dude, shout out Brad Pitt. A great movie too.
Ocean's 11, the Ocean's 11, 12, and 13 film series. He was amazing in that.
Him and Clooney are so fun. Even the movie that came out last year with them Wolves.
Yes.
Didn't get a lot of play because it was on Apple Plus, but I really enjoyed that as well. And what's the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is really
that movie.
Even more than DiCaprio's, it's really his movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll throw out two more. You mentioned Leo before, but for me, it's because of Inception. That movie is ingrained in my brain. Yeah. I've watched it so many times.
I am fully seated for every Nolan movie, by the way.
I love
Tenet, which wasn't great. I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, Nolan is a great director. I love most, if not all of his movies. But that one specifically, I must have watched it 5 or 6 times because every time you watch it, you find something new that you didn't see before every time you watch it.
Trying to uncover it. Does it end in a dream?
It's so genius.
You never know.
Are they really down? It's nuts.
Yeah.
So genius. Yeah, you never know with him. That movie, like, what was the other one that I did recently that I really enjoyed?
Oppenheimer was his most.
Oppenheimer was good. The one where it wasn't really about time travel, but it was like reverse time.
Yeah, it was forwards and backwards. Tenet.
Yes,
with,
that one.
John David Washington, Denzel's son,
yes.
Robert Pattinson, another good actor. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It didn't get the the biggest best reviews. It wasn't my favorite, but I did like it. And you'd always know no one's going to take some risks. He's going to have some really cool shit.
Of course. And then I'll give you one more, but you'd have to help me out because I can't remember his name. But he was in the Green Mile.
I love this game.
He was in the Green Mile. He was the guy that pretty much had like the powers.
Oh, Michael Clark Duncan.
Oh yeah, I love him.
Yeah,
I love him.
He's the Kingpin in that old Daredevil movie.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Talladega Nights. He's in plenty of stuff.
So much. Yeah.
Michael Clark Duncan in that movie, specifically in Green Mile, heartbreaking.
It's such a good role. Such a good role. Those three in that movie. Hanks, him, the guy who plays the jerk dude that like just tries to kill everyone by accident or purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's four, and then it's the other cop that's with Tom, but I can't think of that actor's name either.
I don't remember.
Yeah, but him also very good. He was also in House for a little bit here and there. First time for like a season or two, trying to get House away from being a doctor. Yeah, he's really good too. But also with that, shout out to Hugh Laurie because Hugh Laurie is also amazing.
Oh, Hugh Laurie's great. Specifically in House, I enjoyed his stuff for years.
Dude, it took me because I didn't know much about Huey before House. I only watched House. I didn't know.
Sure.
I didn't know he was.
You didn't see him in 101 Dalmatians.
I didn't realize he was British or whatever until after.
Yeah.
Like,
it's one of those things where like when the first time you hear him speak with the accent, you're like, what the hell's going on?
I watched him do like an interview. I was like, wait a second. Wait. I was like, you do a really, really, really good American accent.
Yeah, it's basically every kid that sees Tom Holland like doing an interview.
Right.
Because they assume he's just Spider-Man.
Right.
Yeah. I like your Matthew McConaughey pick. I really liked him in We Are Marshall. I thought he was very good in there, very emotional. And that makes me think of Kurt Russell. And I'm not like the hugest Kurt Russell fan, but every now and then he'll have something. His role in Miracle, he was.
What's the movie? What's the Kurt Russell movie with Goldie Hawn?
Overboard.
Overboard.
There you go.
One of my favorite movies.
That's
I love it.
I like
that is a good movie.
Yeah, Miracle's great for sure, but like Overboard's so fun.
Overboard's great. Yeah, and there are so many people I run into that have no idea about that movie, and I'm like, listen, you have to go watch it. They made that terrible remake of it that like they switched the male and female roles, and it just but it wasn't Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn, so it didn't hit the same.
It didn't work the same.
No. All right. Wow. Well, this has been one of our
guys.
Highly discussed.
I'll talk all night off this. That's what happens.
That's the problem. Yeah. Listen, we get started and we just can't stop. Like it's the rabbit hole. We're falling down.
Right. It's the rabbit hole.
Well, listen, we'll just have to have a specific episode at one point just about movies and actors.
Part 2.
Right.
We do. We absolutely do.
It's
coming. All right. So we're going to take just a brief break here while you check out some upcoming events we've got coming up. And when we come back, we'll be discussing the same thing.
This guy.
The Diaz brand himself, Jared.
This guy.
So if you have not seen them yet, make sure you check out on the channel our videos, our interviews with Main Man Manny from last Sunday. And that was incredible. Also check out our interview with Tanya, our first returning guest on Wrestling with Life. She comes on to talk about all the stuff that she's been doing, including her brand new wrestling centric graphic novel, Count the Lights. So that was really cool. So check that out as well. And then come back next Sunday as we this is a tag team that I've been trying to get for a long time, because the Boar is the reason I got into Chikara Pro, and going to Chikara shows was where I ended up meeting Sean. So this all comes full circle, because we would not have this podcast without any of those things happening. But that is one of my favorite thumbnails I've ever made.
Yes, that's so good.
I'm so proud of that. Like, it came out so much better than I like. Yes, it wasn't.
It got my attention. Gummy Boar. I'm here for Gummy Boar.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So where can folks catch the Diaz brand?
Jarrett Diaz brand, first of all, is on Instagram and Twitter at the Jarrett Diaz. Upcoming events. Let's talk about where I will be in action. Let's play this as if it's real time and not.
Yeah.
Of course.
Don't.
Okay, this coming weekend on May 25th, I will be at the BCW/Shadow joint event called, I think it's the Juggernaut /2nd anniversary.
Okay.
No, 8th anniversary. I'm sorry.
Gotcha.
It is in celebration of Vince Steele and his passing. I am in a tag team Juggernaut gauntlet match where the winners will be shipped off to Puerto Rico for the tag team championship, Shadow Tag Team Championships. So I'm looking forward to that, because I can't wait to go to Puerto Rico, because I am. So that's May 25th. Coming up after that, May 31st, I am at Battle Club in the Bronx in a fatal 4-way tag team match. Both of those, by the way, a couple tag team matches back to back with my buddy Matt Awesome. Shout out the Uptown Boys. And following that, I am at House of Glory. House of Glory's Puerto Rican weekend presented by Mike Santana on June 7th. On June 8th, I'm down in Florida with WWN Super Show and WWN Proving Ground the following day, June 9th.
Very cool.
That's all off the dome, but trust me, I am booked and busy, babe.
Well, listen, you mentioned your social media, the Jarrett Diaz. It's been scrolling on the bottom of the screen. So make sure you are following Jarrett Diaz on all the socials, so you get the latest information about where you can go out and support the Diaz brand.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, this has been a lot of fun. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you coming on and chatting it up with us and being such an enthusiastic top fiver. Like, we get people that come on here and they're just like, some people will, and I'm not putting anybody down. Let's not go there. But some people will come on and they'll just kind of read their top 5, like number 5, chicken wings, number 4, chicken nuggets, number 3.
I am a sports broadcaster. I'm brought up in the world of sports debate. Give me First Take. Give me Stephen A. Smith. That is my
listen, man. I miss the old days. Yeah.
If you want a top 5 from me, you're gonna hear about them. I know we had a previous chat, the three of us, where we discussed some musical theater. And I am more than willing to get back into that on a proper top 5.
You got it, man.
Exactly.
We are definitely going to have you on again, because there is so much. Like you sir are an onion, and we have simply peeled one layer. There are so many more layers to peel.
Love to hear that. I try to be as well-rounded as possible.
Listen, man.
I learned from a young age that if you want to have a talk with anybody, you got to know at least a little bit about something, a little bit about
There you go. Yeah, awesome. Well, again, we appreciate your time. You are welcome here anytime. We will be sure to have you on to discuss everything else that we didn't get to tonight.
Right.
But it's really been great having you.
It's been a blast. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you so much.
Always.
We appreciate that. We love it. All right. So that's going to wrap it up here for episode 105 of the Opinion City podcast. For the quarterback, the CEO, the man himself of the Diaz brand, Jarrett Diaz. For Parmesan, I'm King Ralph. And remember, kindness is free, so be kind to each other. And God bless, and we will see you guys next time.
We out.
Well, that's it. I really hope you enjoyed it. We had a ball making it. Thank you very much.